You know that feeling when everything's going great, the calls, the texts, the late-night talks where it feels like he finally gets you. And then suddenly, silence. He was so into you, then pulled away. And you're left wondering, what did I do wrong? If you've ever found yourself replaying every moment, every word, trying to decode his sudden distance, you are not alone. Today, we're diving deep into the truth behind why men pull away, and more importantly, how you can rise above it with power, clarity, and confidence. This isn't just another piece of relationship advice for women. This is your wake-up call. We're talking dating tips for women that shift your entire mindset. We'll unpack how to make him miss you without playing games, how to embody female empowerment in relationships, why it's time to stop chasing men, and how understanding men begins with understanding yourself. Whether you're healing from heartbreak, seeking toxic relationship recovery, or ready to step into your high-value woman mindset, this is your moment to reclaim your power through self-love and confidence. When a man pulls away, it feels like the ground shifts under your feet. One moment, he's texting good morning, calling just to hear your voice, and making plans for the future. And then, nothing. Silence. That silence is deafening because it messes with your mind. You start wondering, did I say something wrong? Did I come on too strong? Did he meet someone else? You replay every moment, every conversation, as if one of them holds the secret answer to what changed. But here's the hard truth. Sometimes it's not about what you did at all. It's about the natural dynamic of attraction and the emotional energy that shifts when you start chasing something that should have been flowing toward you. See, men are wired for pursuit. It's not about playing games. It's about the psychology of attraction. When he was first into you, there was mystery. There was challenge. There was curiosity. He didn't know everything about you yet, and that unknown pulled him closer. But somewhere along the way, that energy shifted. Maybe you started doing more, calling more, worrying more. Maybe you started managing his emotions instead of your own. You began to overthink his silence instead of focusing on your peace. And that shift, that subtle tilt in energy, is where the chase begins to die. Because when you start chasing, you stop being the prize. And I know that sounds harsh, but hear me out. Being the prize doesn't mean being arrogant or cold. It means knowing that your time, your love, your attention, they are valuable. They are earned through consistency and respect. When you forget that and start running after someone who's retreating, you give away your power. You turn your energy into a magnet for rejection because desperation never attracts love. It repels it. What keeps someone drawn to you is your groundedness, your calm, your self-assurance. It's the energy of a woman who knows who she is, even when someone else doesn't know what they want. And when he pulls away, that's your moment to pause, not panic. Because this isn't just about him needing space. It's about you needing to remember who you are without someone else's attention defining your worth. The best thing you can do when he retreats is to lean into yourself. Reconnect with your life. Go for a walk. Pick up a passion you've neglected. Spend time with people who make you laugh. Do things that remind you that your joy never depended on a man's presence. Because the truth is, when you're living your life fully, you radiate confidence, and that confidence is magnetic. It's not about making him miss you. It's about remembering that you never lost yourself. And that's the paradox. When you stop chasing, you start attracting again. Because men, and honestly, people in general, are drawn to energy that feels calm, confident, and self-sufficient. When he sees that you're not falling apart, that you're not begging for his attention, that you're not spiraling into self-blame, that's when he feels something shift. He starts to miss the version of you who was whole, independent, vibrant. But here's the kicker. You're not doing it to get him back. You're doing it because that's who you've always been before you started dimming your light for love. That's where your power lives. In the woman who doesn't chase, doesn't beg, doesn't crumble, but simply remembers. Now let's talk about something deeper, the fear that drives this pulling away in the first place. Because it's not always just about attraction fading or the chase losing momentum. Sometimes it's about vulnerability, that deep, almost primal fear that opening up means losing control. See, men are taught to be strong, composed, unshakable. They grow up believing that feelings make them weak, that love can be dangerous because it exposes their insecurities. So when things start getting real, when they start feeling something deep, their instincts kick in. They pull back. Not because they don't care, but because they're scared. Scared of needing you. Scared of being seen. Scared of being vulnerable. And here's where it gets tricky. Your natural instinct when he withdraws is to move closer. To reach out. To fix it. You start sending longer texts, asking what's wrong, trying to reassure him that everything's fine. But the more you chase emotional reassurance, the more he retreats. Because in his mind, the relationship suddenly feels heavy, suffocating, and you're left wondering, why does showing love push him away? It's not your love that pushes him away. It's his fear of losing himself in it. This is where your strength comes in. Because you can't convince someone to be emotionally ready. You can't soothe the fear they refuse to face. What you can do is stand still in your truth. Let him take the space he needs, but don't abandon yourself in the process. Don't let his confusion become your chaos. That's the hardest part, staying calm when everything inside you wants to reach out and fix it. But that calmness is your power. Because the right man, the one who's emotionally available, grounded, and ready, won't run from vulnerability. He'll lean into it. The key is to stop personalizing his distance. His withdrawal doesn't mean you weren't enough. It means he's at war with himself, with his fears, his patterns, his old wounds. Your job isn't to prove your worth to someone battling their own emotions. Your job is to love yourself so fiercely that you become the safest place in your own world. That's what real strength looks like. Because here's the truth. A woman rooted in her worth doesn't chase uncertainty. She doesn't cling to confusion. She doesn't beg to be chosen. She stands still, knowing that if someone can't meet her halfway, she'll still be okay. And maybe, just maybe, he'll come back when he realizes what he lost. Or maybe he won't. But either way, you win. Because you didn't lose yourself trying to hold on to someone who couldn't hold space for you. You learned to stay centered, to trust the process, and to understand that love isn't about chasing someone who's running. It's about being still enough to attract someone who's ready to stay. ChatGPT said, when he pulls away, it's easy to point the finger outward, to blame his confusion, his inconsistency, his fear of commitment. But if you're brave enough, you start asking the harder question, what is this moment trying to show me about myself? Because every relationship you have mirrors your inner world. The way he treats you, the way you react, the way the energy between you rises and falls, all of it reflects what's happening inside you. That's not about blame. That's about awareness. When he disappears emotionally, maybe it's time to ask, where have I disappeared from myself? Where have you been ignoring your needs, quieting your intuition, or betraying your standards just to keep the peace? Because often, the version of you that shows up in relationships is the version that hasn't healed yet. The one who learned that love has to be earned, proven, or chased. That's the mirror effect. And it's powerful because it forces you to look inward instead of losing yourself trying to control what's outside of you. When you notice yourself overthinking every message, walking on eggshells around his moods, or shrinking yourself to avoid conflict, those aren't love habits. Those are survival patterns. They're the parts of you that once learned that being too much, too emotional, or too honest might cost you connection. So when he pulls away, it triggers that old wound, the one that whispers, "You're not enough," or "You'll lose him if you don't fix this." But that voice isn't truth. That's your past talking. That's your unhealed self trying to protect you in the only way she knows how. So instead of chasing, pause. Instead of spiraling, reflect. Ask yourself, what part of me is afraid right now? Maybe it's the part that fears abandonment. Maybe it's the part that equates silence with rejection. Maybe it's the part that still believes love has to hurt. Once you identify that, you take your power back. Because the moment you bring awareness to those patterns, you can change them. You can begin showing up as the version of you that doesn't beg for attention. She attracts respect. She's not scared of space. She thrives in it. You can feel when a woman has done that inner work. She moves differently. She speaks differently. She doesn't panic when someone pulls away because she knows that what's meant for her will never require her to abandon herself. Her energy says, I'm whole, whether you stay or go. And that kind of self-assuredness is magnetic. It's the kind of energy that pulls in people who are ready and repels the ones who aren't. That's not arrogance. That's alignment. Now, let's talk about something most women don't realize: the loss of polarity. It's one of the biggest reasons why connections that start off passionate suddenly fizzle out. In the beginning, there's this spark, that electricity that makes you feel alive. He's drawn to your warmth, your softness, your confidence. You're drawn to his drive, his energy, his focus. It's the dance of masculine and feminine energy. Not gender roles, but emotional balance. But over time, that dance shifts. Maybe you start anticipating his needs, managing his emotions, organizing the relationship like a project. Without realizing it, you step out of your natural flow and into control mode. You go from being the ocean to being the storm, chasing, fixing, over-explaining, trying to hold everything together. And that's where attraction starts to fade. Men, and again, this isn't about all men, but generally, are drawn to space. To the mystery of not fully knowing what you'll do next. To the feeling of earning your attention. When that mystery disappears and the dynamic turns into emotional management, the polarity dies. You can't force desire. You can't lecture someone into feeling passion again. What reignites it is energy. The kind that comes from you being centered in yourself. That's when the energy shifts back. That's when the spark returns. And no, that doesn't mean you should become cold or distant to get him back. It means you should pull your energy back into yourself. It means you stop living for his validation and start living for your own fulfillment. You rediscover your hobbies, your joy, your purpose. You show up in your own life fully, not waiting, not checking your phone every 5 minutes, but actually living. Because when your life is full, vibrant, and passionate, you become magnetic again. Not because you're playing hard to get, but because your energy says, I'm already fulfilled. Think about it. In the early stages of attraction, you weren't sitting around wondering if he'd text. You were confident, spontaneous in your own world. That's what drew him in. But once fear creeps in, fear of losing him, fear of rejection, you start over-investing. You start pouring too much, too soon, and he feels that pressure. It's not about playing games. It's about restoring balance. Because love isn't meant to be managed. It's meant to breathe. So when he pulls back, give the space meaning. Don't fill it with anxiety. Fill it with your life. Go to that dinner you've been putting off. Spend time with your friends. Take a class. Go for a run. Read something that nourishes your mind. Because every time you shift your focus back to you, you remind the world and yourself that you are not defined by someone else's attention. Polarity thrives when two people have their own lives, their own energy, their own purpose, and choose to meet in the middle, not out of need, but out of want. The more you cling, the less space there is for attraction to breathe. The more you let go, the more that natural tension returns. It's that subtle, powerful pull that comes from two people who respect each other's space but still crave each other's presence, and that's the secret most people never talk about. Attraction isn't built in closeness, it's maintained in distance. When you can stand confidently in your own space without trying to close the gap, you create the exact energy that makes someone lean in again. You become the calm in the storm. The woman who doesn't chase, doesn't crumble, doesn't beg. She radiates, she glows. And that glow, that deep, grounded self-love, is what draws everything she deserves right back to her. There comes a point in every relationship where you have to ask yourself, am I giving too much too soon? Because here's what happens. Most women start giving emotionally before they've received commitment. You open your heart, your schedule, your energy, and you start showing up for him like you're already his partner. You start making emotional investments that aren't being matched. And at first it feels good. You're nurturing, supportive, available. But slowly something shifts. You start noticing that the more you give, the less you get. He starts pulling back, communication slows, and suddenly, you feel like you're carrying the entire emotional weight of the relationship on your back. That's when the anxiety kicks in. You start wondering what happened, what changed, what you need to do to bring the connection back. But here's the truth you need to hear. Giving more will never make someone stay. What keeps love alive isn't the absence of boundaries. It's the presence of them. Boundaries don't make you hard to love. They make you safe to love. They tell the world, I value connection, but not at the cost of my peace. When you have emotional boundaries, you're saying, I can care deeply for you, but I won't abandon myself to prove it. That's power. That's emotional maturity. That's what separates a woman who's chasing love from a woman who attracts it effortlessly. Because the truth is, people respect what you protect. When you don't protect your energy, when you're always available, always saying yes, always bending your boundaries to accommodate someone else, you're teaching them that you'll tolerate inconsistency. You're teaching them that your time, your emotions, your love, all of it can be taken for granted. And listen, I know this is hard. Setting emotional boundaries feels scary because you've been taught that love means giving everything. You've been conditioned to believe that if you pull back, you'll lose him. But the only thing you'll ever lose by setting boundaries is people who were never willing to meet you halfway. That's not loss, that's clarity. Because when you value yourself, you start attracting people who value you too. You start moving differently. You stop chasing closure. You stop waiting for the text. And you stop accepting crumbs when you deserve the feast. Emotional boundaries aren't about control. They're about clarity. They allow you to see who's truly showing up for you. When you hold space instead of overextending, the right person leans in, while the wrong person fades out. And that's exactly what you want. For your life to filter out what doesn't align with your worth. Boundaries don't push love away, they push chaos away. They protect your peace, your time, your emotional energy. You stop needing to prove your value because you start living it. And that's what creates that high-value woman energy. Not arrogance, not indifference, but a quiet strength that says, I don't chase love. I attract it because I've become it. Now let's talk about self-worth, the core of it all. Because when a man pulls away, it doesn't just hurt. It cuts deep. It pokes at the oldest wounds you carry. Rejection, abandonment, not being enough. It's not just him you're crying over. It's every moment in your life where you felt unseen, unchosen, unworthy. That's why it stings so much. That's why your mind spirals. But here's the thing. This is also where your power begins. Because that pain, that ache in your chest, it's not there to break you. It's there to wake you up, to remind you that your worth has never been up for negotiation. Every time someone pulls away, you have a choice. You can collapse into self-blame, or you can rise into self-worth. You can chase validation, or you can give yourself the love you've been begging for. You can lose yourself trying to make him stay, or you can find yourself by letting him go. The truth is, your worth was never tied to who stays or who leaves. It was never dependent on how much attention you got. It's inherent. It's built into you. You were born worthy. The problem is, somewhere along the line, you forgot that. You started believing that you had to earn it, through overgiving, through people-pleasing, through tolerating things you didn't deserve. But the moment you decide you are enough, everything changes. A woman who knows her worth walks differently. She talks differently. She doesn't chase explanations. She creates peace. She doesn't seek approval. She moves from self-approval. She's not cold, she's clear. She's not hard, she's healed. When you truly embody self-worth, you stop negotiating with people who make you question it. You stop explaining your value to someone who can't see it. You stop trying to convince anyone to stay, because you finally understand that the right person will never need convincing. And let me tell you something powerful. Men can feel that energy. They can sense when a woman knows who she is. It's in her eyes, her tone, her silence. It's in the way she doesn't chase, doesn't beg, doesn't play games. When you're rooted in self-worth, your energy says, I'm not afraid to lose you because I won't lose myself. And that's the kind of energy that commands respect. It's the kind of energy that makes people step up or step aside. The truth is, healing your self-worth isn't about becoming untouchable. It's about becoming unshakable. It's about learning that you can love deeply without losing yourself. It's about understanding that rejection doesn't mean you're not enough. It means someone else couldn't meet you at your level. It's about choosing peace over panic, standards over fear, and self-respect over desperation. Because when you reach that point, when your self-worth stops depending on someone else's validation, you become unstoppable. You no longer shrink yourself to fit into someone else's life. You expand. You glow differently. You start attracting people who mirror your confidence, your peace, your strength. And those who can't match it will naturally fall away. Not because you're intimidating, but because you're no longer available for anything less than real, mutual, grounded love. That's the real work. It's not about learning how to make him come back. It's about learning how to never lose yourself again, no matter who leaves. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean you stop loving. It means you stop trying to control something that was never yours to control. You stop begging for certainty from someone who can't give it. You stop building your peace on someone else's presence. Detachment is the quiet power of letting go. Not because you're giving up, but because you finally realize you deserve freedom from the chaos. It's the moment you decide that your emotional stability won't depend on someone else's inconsistency. You stop waiting for a text that may never come. You stop rereading old messages searching for clues. You stop showing up for someone who's not showing up for you. You shift your focus back to yourself, and suddenly, you start to breathe again. There's something magnetic about a woman who lets go with grace. She doesn't chase closure. She creates it within herself. She doesn't need to force anything because she trusts that what's meant for her will find its way back, and what's not will fall away. Detachment doesn't make you cold. It makes you powerful. It's the difference between waiting for love and living your life while love finds you. When you let go, you create space. Space for healing. Space for clarity. Space for new energy to enter your life. That space isn't empty. It's sacred. It's where you reconnect with yourself. Most women confuse detachment with indifference, but they're not the same. Indifference is pretending you don't care. Detachment is knowing you care deeply, but refusing to let that care consume you. It's the emotional maturity of saying, I love you, but I love myself too. It's not passive. It's powerful. It's not weakness. It's wisdom. When you learn the art of detachment, you start to see that love flows where freedom exists. The tighter you hold, the more it slips away. The more you let go, the more truth reveals itself. You can't make someone stay who doesn't want to. You can't make someone love you in the way you deserve if they're not ready to meet you there. But you can choose to love yourself through their absence. You can choose to protect your peace instead of chasing closure. You can choose to keep your heart open but your standards firm. Because detachment isn't about walls. It's about boundaries. It's about saying, I can want you, but I won't lose myself needing you. That's emotional strength. That's the kind of energy that doesn't beg. It attracts. And here's the beautiful paradox. When you detach, you become unforgettable. Not because you played games, but because your energy shifts. You stop radiating neediness and start radiating peace. You start focusing on your own growth, your own joy, your own fulfillment. You start living a life that feels rich and full. And that energy? That's what people feel. That's what they remember. That's what they miss. It's not about how to make him miss you. It's about becoming so deeply connected to yourself that your absence is felt without you ever trying. The more you focus on you, the more magnetic you become. Now let's talk about reclaiming your power and redefining love. Because at the end of the day, that's what this entire journey is about. Taking your power back from every situation that made you feel small. It's about understanding that love was never meant to break you down. It was meant to build you up. Somewhere along the way, you started believing that love had to be earned, that you had to sacrifice parts of yourself to keep it. But real love doesn't require you to lose yourself. Real love meets you where you are, fully, completely, without conditions. You deserve a love that feels safe. A love that brings peace, not anxiety. A love that's consistent, not confusing. But you'll never attract that kind of love until you start embodying it yourself. You have to become the kind of woman who no longer entertains half efforts, the kind who no longer accepts potential as a promise, the kind who says, if it costs me my self-respect, it's too expensive. That's what reclaiming your power looks like. Not through revenge, not through pretending you don't care, but by walking away from anything that doesn't align with your peace. You begin to understand that love isn't about how much you can give. It's about how deeply you can receive. It's about being open but not desperate, vulnerable but not naive, hopeful but not blind. It's about building a life so rich in self-love that a relationship becomes an addition, not an escape. That's the shift. When you no longer look for someone to complete you because you already feel whole. You start to attract love from a place of abundance, not lack. That's when everything changes. And here's what's beautiful. When you step into that energy, you stop fearing the end of something. You stop clinging to people who can't meet you. You realize that endings aren't punishment, they're protection. They're redirections towards something better, something aligned, something worthy of the woman you've become. You stop taking rejection personally because you see it for what it is. Guidance. The universe saying, not this one, not yet. When you reclaim your power, you stop living in reaction to someone else's actions. You become the calm center of your own life. You're no longer waiting to be chosen, because you've already chosen yourself. That's the high-value woman mindset. Not arrogance, but authenticity. It's knowing your worth so deeply that you stop negotiating it. It's walking in the room with quiet confidence because you know you bring peace, not chaos. It's realizing that the right person won't make you question your worth. They'll remind you of it. You stop romanticizing inconsistency. You stop confusing intensity with intimacy. You stop glorifying struggle love, because the truth is, love should not feel like survival. It should feel like freedom. It should feel like coming home, not losing yourself trying to fit into someone else's story. When you reclaim your power, you write your own. You stop being the woman waiting for the call and become the woman building her life. You stop crying over what's lost and start celebrating what's coming. You start trusting that everything that's left your life has made space for something far better. And that's what it means to redefine love, to move from needing it to being it, to know that real love, the kind that's healthy, mature, lasting, will only show up when you've made peace with yourself first. Because when you truly love yourself, you don't chase anyone. You attract everything meant for you by simply being who you are, whole, grounded, radiant, and free. So the next time he pulls away, don't spiral, rise. Let his distance be the space you use to rediscover your power. Remember, your worth isn't defined by someone's presence or absence. It's defined by how fiercely you love yourself. If this message spoke to your heart, drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your story. Don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs this reminder, and subscribe for more deep, real, empowering conversations about love, healing, and growth. And before you go, tell me in the comments what topic you'd like us to dive into next, because your voice, your story, your transformation, they all matter here.